Hey guys, thanks for checking out another video. Today we're going to be replacing the screen on an iPhone 13 Pro. This guy here, busted up screen. So let's go ahead and get started. Alright, we're going to start with removing the two pentalobe from the bottom. Now generally on these, if you were doing something like a battery replacement or something, you would want to get the screen off without damaging it. But our screen here is pretty jacked already. So I'm not even going to tape it up or anything like that. I'm just going to use the tool with the sharpened tip. I'm going to hold it in my hand with the charging port up, and I'm going to get in right here on the right hand corner. Now that I'm in behind the frame, I'm just going to slowly pry it and work it forward at the same time. Just breaking that adhesive a little bit. Alright, now once we got it in there, I'm just going to turn it to pry the screen out, move down a little bit, and I'm just sticking it in maybe a millimeter or two and then turning it. And I just want to pop the little clips out of the frame is all. I'm going to do that all the way until I get to this corner. Then I'm going to flip the phone around, put this back in the top, and then work it down the other side the same way. Alright, so now once we have both of the sides open, I like to put it down and just pick this up, and I'm going to take my thumb and put it on the frame and my finger on the screen, and then I'm just going to pull the screen back so it creates this space right here. And then I'm going to put this in here and just going to pop it up carefully all the way across. Boom, there you go. Now you want to make sure when you do this, the camera is towards your right hand. And then clip went back into the hole. The camera and everything wants to be up here and the charging port down here. That way you can open it like a book away from you. Now that it is open, a gnat. I'm gonna use this little dealio to kickstand it. That way I can utilize both of my hands. And we'll get these plates off of here. This are gonna be mostly Y screws and then 2 Phillips. So let's go ahead and get the plate off of the battery and get that disconnected first. All right, let's get this last screw from the battery connector. Grab that plate. Now let's disconnect the battery before we go any farther. There we are. Let's get the rest of these plates, or this other plate rather. The last 2 screws are Phillips. There we are. Now let's go ahead and disconnect the screen and the proximity sensor flex. Set this frame to the side. Sorry, you don't want to end up with some of that glass in your hand. So if you have the time and you want to put in the effort, it's always preferable to have that clean workstation. All right, back to the Y. Let's go ahead and get these 3 screws from the proximity sensor flex. Alcohol. It's never too much. Plastic spudger. Just kind of get under here a little bit and then get past this little part here. You don't want to rip anything. Nice and slow. Just be super careful. Nice and slow and steady. There we are. We got that up. Now that that is freed, we'll grab some tweezers and I'm going to poke underneath into the plastic and then pry under so I don't hurt the microphone or the proximity sensor or the true depth. Down in there nice and good in between the frame and the actual sensor. Same thing on here. Down in, pry very easily up. Now that we have that apart, I'm just gonna blow on it to get the residual alcohol to evaporate. Now with our new screen, we're just gonna do these steps in reverse. I'm gonna put in the sensors first, so they kind of give the rest of the flex what alignment it's gonna have, and then you're gonna align this little notch here with the proximity notch. Nice and even. Now that that's on there, we'll put the bracket back over, put the 3 Y screws back in, and then we'll be able to put the screen back onto the phone. Okay, so now that we have that all reassembled, danger, Will Robinson, danger. I'm gonna do the camera and the camera's right hand, that way it's oriented facing this way. So I am going to leave the proximity sensor disconnected right now because the setup process for this particular screen requires that this be disconnected during the configuration. So I'm going to connect the screen and then I'm going to connect the battery. And then with the proximity flex disconnected, just going to move this bad boy to the front so I know that it's out of the way and not interfering with anything. See? So now I'm going to boot into the Apple Diagnostics menu. And to do that, you need a cable, so Lightning or USB-C. You need to hold in the volume up and the volume down button at the same time. and then plug in the cord while you're holding those two buttons down and wait for the Apple logo to pop up. Or in this case, we will wait for the phone to charge. So I'm going to halt this recording until the phone gets enough juice to turn on, and then we'll boot into the diagnostic process and finish the repair. Okay, now that we have a little bit of charge on this phone, let's go ahead and, with the proximity sensor disconnected, boot into the diagnostic menu. So volume up, volume down at the same time, hold them, plug in the cable. We're going to wait for the Apple logo. Once the Apple logo is popped up, you can release the volume up and volume down. And the diagnostics menu takes a minute or so to get booted. Okay, now that we're booted into the diagnostics and repair menu, we're going to start the session and we're going to connect to the Wi-Fi. So once we're connected, sometimes this takes a minute, sometimes it doesn't pop up at all until the phone has been booted. In our case, we don't have that option because this phone is iCloud locked from the customer. So we just won't be able to re-enable the True Tone on this. If it doesn't pop up after about 30 seconds, we'll go ahead and restart the phone and then just finish the repair without the completion of the diagnostics. It just populated the right time. Alright, so let's go ahead and just exit this. We're going to open it back up, a book away from you, disconnect the battery. Now we just need to reconnect the flex for the proximity sensor carefully. There we are. Alright, now that the flex for the proximity sensor is reconnected, we can go ahead and reconnect the battery. I'm gonna grab my kickstand so I can use both of my hands again. And I'll put the plates back on just how I took them off. Oops. So the two Phillips screws are going to be going in first. Doesn't really matter what order you do this in, as long as everything makes it back to the correct place. Alright, perfect. With all the screws back in, we're going to close it. And I'm going to put the top and the bottom in, and then work into the middle. Do the same thing on the other side. Top and bottom in, work my way up to the middle. That way it creates kind of a little U, and then this side and this side are in. Otherwise, if it's flat, you may run into an issue where the screen is pressing against the frame, and you'll need to like push it down into there, and that amount of force is never good. So I'm just going to run my thumb around the edges with some pressure to get the adhesive to stick again, and then just kind of hold it in my palms and flex it a little bit to make sure all the clips are proper, and then we'll put the pentalobes back in. Alright, and with that, turn this bad boy on. We need to jump start this guy. Alright, there we go. Like I said, iCloud lock device, but that's fine. Is it iCloud? Anyway, repair is complete. Alright guys, appreciate you tuning in to another video. Stay tuned for much more content, and it would really help me out if you liked this video and subscribe so I can keep making more, and this continues to make sense for all parties involved. Really appreciate you guys. Thanks, and have a great rest of your day.